I'll start this off. Who's taking listings in the last 2 months?
virtually.
You got one. Who else is taking a listing? In the last 2 months? What are you guys seeing?
I mean, like, on the showings?
Yes. Or no, on the appointments. What are you guys seeing? What kind of conversations are you having with the sellers?
The biggest thing is getting them realistic on price because, everyone wants a price like it's 2021. It's not.
Price, Jamie?
Mine's kind of the same, but it's just more just, they want information on how to sell it quick, what to do to.
So anyone on the screen? Maybe. Okay. Who's all lead generated every day?
Every day. No thanks. We'll be honest, I don't lead gen every day.
Okay, every weekday. Or every day that you should be.
I'm not your guy for that.
Not your guy. Jamie? Anyone else lead generating?
We do lead gen. We don't do it every day or as often as we should.
Okay, well, that's fair.
block it
Thank
off
you
on
for
my-
being honest.
I always hate that, like, sometimes you have classes are like lead gen from 9 to 11 every day. I'm like, I'm out, man. I don't even start my day till 10. No.
Very honest, Jordan.
That's very honest. Well, good.
I'm hungry, so I gotta eat. I'm
Good.
being too honest.
Yeah. The reason I asked that is because there's some uncertainty in the market that we're starting to see, at least that I'm starting to see, and maybe other people are seeing different things. I lead generate as much as possible. I'm with Jonas, not every day as I should. But I try to keep it to a minimum of 4 days a week. At least between 9 and 11. I'm just
Yeah.
sitting down in front of a computer and I'm cold calling. So whether that's circle prospecting, calling expireds, for sale by owners, pre-foreclosures, I'm just sitting there dialing on the phone. I'm getting a lot of appointments out of it. I've been on more appointments in the last 2 months than I did the prior 9 months. I've been on 9 appointments in the last 2 months for sellers. And we're getting a lot of good conversations and a lot of different types of conversations that we had to have over the last few years. So that's why I asked what kind of conversations you guys are having.
So what kind of conversations do you have? And if you had 9 appointments and it's all cold leads, like,
Yep.
So what are you doing to get in front of them? And what do you talk? What's the conversation about?
So a lot of my conversions are happening with expireds. So they're what I consider a warm lead because they've raised their hand and they've wanted to sell in the past. And they just need a little bit of, I like to call it juice in order to get it back on the market. With that being said, we've had the conversation of the reason they're pulling it off the market is it wasn't the market that they thought it was. Not only that, they're also talking about, okay, well, they're just uncertain. That's why I brought up the uncertainty point. They're uncertain with what the future holds. I was in a Zoom call with Jared Krenz. And he said, now more than ever, you have to be a leader. And so that's kind of why the premises of this discussion is going to be. Is that Sue?
It is.
Hi, Sue.
She had her pace on, then she decided.
Of being a leader in this type of a market, because who here watches the news or has Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, has some sort of news feed given to them?
I avoid the news like the plague, so.
Well, wait a minute.
It's depressing.
Have you ever heard, okay, interest rates are rising, inventory is extremely low, no one's gonna be able to buy a house. If you want to sell, you're not gonna be able to find your next home. I've heard it.
So
You've heard it?
I just saw.
There you go. There you go.
the same day though, because you get your news blips is like, we've had 6 or 7 weeks of declining interest rates, like. So
Exactly.
it's just pointing him to the right direction.
What was it? What day was it that it just touched below 6? Wednesday or just 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
And so those are the types of things that our sellers or buyers need to hear. We're dealing with a lot of sellers that are turning around and purchasing a second home, for whatever reason it might be. Going on an appointment tomorrow with an expired that wants to sell at a certain price. And we're gonna have to have a discussion because that price isn't realistic. And the price that he wants, he doesn't know. He could put money elsewhere and earn interest on it. So it's changing those conversations, but everybody needs to buy or sell typically, or in this conversation, everyone needs to sell their home. Not now, but it's just finding out why they need to. And I shouldn't say it like that. Everyone that wants to sell, you just have to find out the actual reason behind it. Being a leader in the conversation of,
Ben, what are you telling your clients? I'm just gonna give you a hard time. What are you telling your people on market times? Because they're not the same, because, you know, obviously everyone made it like, I mean, everyone posted in 2020, 2021, oh, house on the market for 2 hours and 72 offers later. So what are you doing, or what is anyone else in the room doing? I'll share mine too, to make your sellers feel like you're actually doing something
so
after you get it on. So, yep, we've got an appointment, we've got listings. Are you prepping them that, hey, the market time's different? Are you prepping them for future price reductions?
yep, so I'm going over the price reductions that's happening in the market. I'm going over how many expireds are going out there. I'm going over all the different market statistics and our different pricing strategies. So if it's been on the market for 14 days and you haven't had an offer or you haven't had a second showing, we're gonna need to do a price reduction. And that's gonna stay consistent. Typically, I like to do 10 days. I don't do the full 2 weeks. And then that pricing conversation goes into, okay, well, where'd he go?
I know, you asked a question.
Get more food. More of the thing.
I noticed the same thing.
Yeah, I was like, okay, well, thanks, Jonas. He must have been tired of it. So,
Should we all just clap when he comes back in?
Yeah.
Great answer.
or we should just wait. So I'm setting that standard beforehand. How is this gonna look after we put it up on the market? My days on market average is about 4.2. So that's what I go off of. Jonas, what was your question again?
What are you doing? So sorry, I was like, dude, I'm not kidding, I'm starving. So if I don't eat, you're just gonna get more raw Jonas. That's not probably good.
That's question.
Yeah, I just wanted to get him going. What are we doing? So what are you doing to prep your sellers that market times are longer? And then I think the title of the class was loving on your sellers. So what are we doing when, or what are you doing, or anybody? It's kind of a loaded question, I'll share, but what are we doing? Because market times legitimately are longer on some houses, even ones you think you price okay. You know, we're seeing the market's wild. You're seeing some houses sell multiple offers immediately, and some are sitting for 30, 60, 90 days, you know, 50 days on market. We heard someone in a meeting say 50 days on market and they're just getting offers. Well, that's a spot where we start losing clients and we lose referrals if we don't do it right. So have you experienced that yet, or have you not really come across that yet?
So I really haven't had to come across it. My longest listing that's been on the market was 14 or actually 13 days before we got an offer. And so I like to go off, that's kind of one of my quote unquote selling points when I'm sitting in front of a cold lead, is I'm educating, okay, this is what the market's doing. And my days on market time is about 4.2 on average. So that leads us into our next conversation of, okay, where do we have to price your home at that we can get you the most amount of money possible and the least amount of, with the least amount of hassle and the least amount of time. I always go over the market statistics on what the average home sitting on the market for, and what's days on market, what's the average of this price. A lot of it's on the education side. Does that answer your question?
I think that's key, is just bringing that value and that education. That's what, I mean, I think a lot of them miss, you know, too. It's not just.
So my guess, my question wasn't that, was more just to help anyone who's got listings, but listings are not gonna all sell. My average list time is 6 days, but literally when you start doing volume and you start getting more listings, it is this year, I will guarantee you, you're not gonna hold that average. It's not gonna be possible. You're gonna have listings go 3 to 4 or 5 weeks.
Yep.
And they're gonna look like they're priced well. And you might even get lots of activity. You might even get all your feedback might be, hey, it's priced perfect. It's a beautiful house. But now we got to keep our client happy. So that's a different conversation. So it's one, we got to get the business. How do we keep the business when it's market times are getting longer in the market? we always want to beat the market. So how do we get ahead of the market? And then how do we make our seller feel good? And I was just more curious if you were doing any of that yet. So it
Yeah,
sounds like
so-
you're gonna experience this year.
Yep. So typically I took actually what Shelley Holtz. So if anyone's ever sat in on one of Shelley Holtz's selling classes or hasn't, please do it. Because I took one of her tactics of doing Tuesday check-in calls, Friday market, market services, and then Monday pre-listing checklists. So anything that happens on a Monday, if you're not in the listing or the active stage, I send out a pre-listing. What do you have to do this week to prepare your home in order to get it up in the market? Tuesdays, I give them a call. They have questions throughout the week. I tell them to wait until Tuesday because I'm going to be giving them a call anyways. And then Fridays, I send them market servicing. It's literally just a Word document. That's everything that I've done this week or in the past weeks. So you just kind of add on to it. So
That's what I was getting at. Exactly. You're nailing it right now.
yep. So
Out of the park, Ben.
they then they see it on the back end that you're actually doing your work.
Can you share that with us?
Like my service, yeah, I can have Sarah send it out. But you're literally marking down.
It was leverage too. It's like
You're literally just sitting or not sitting there. Everything that you do down to like, I'm putting the lockbox on the door. I am marketing the 200 different agents. I'm putting it on the screen. I am reverse prospecting, like all the different things that you should be doing as listing the home. You literally just document it. After you start doing them more often, it's pretty much just a copy and paste. Because you'll have it down to a system, at least you should. And then that gives them the confidence that when you have to come to them and discuss a price reduction, then they know it's the market and it's not on you, that you're not doing your quote unquote job on trying to sell their home and that they're just battling something that's inevitable. So, any other questions?
I like your style.
Thank you.
it wasn't creepy from the back at all.
How about anybody on the screen? I want to open this up for discussion. I did my 15-minute.
I came in at the end of him talking, but one of the things that I've noticed is agents are buying listings.
Mhm.
And sure, fighting that is frustrating. And explaining, I mean, you can't explain anything, you can't explain all of it. That's one thing I've noticed in battle, but I set that nugget out there right away. Because if I'm 25 grand apart, it's in their head that other person that I'm up against is probably buying their listing. Or they're thinking about it, you know what I mean? You know how I like to, you just drop subtle bombs here and there and
Yeah.
and it gets them thinking. So that's one thing that's been super frustrating. Because that's what people are doing right now.
Has anyone had? What are people doing for their commissions? Has anyone had any backlash on commissions? Commission percentages? No.
I've seen a lot more lower payouts,
Yeah, I noticed that too, and it's been a
but
lot.
I don't know, I'm walking a fine line there too, because I'll tell them that my buyer's not willing to pay the difference between your payout and my buyer's rep. You know, someone will come back and say, I'll pay you 2.7, there's no one, no respond. And I think I'm walking a fine line there, but that's fun.
Have you ever had it in the past?
The lower payouts. I mean, I'm seeing them more now. Are you seeing them
Mhm.
more? I mean, I think everyone's seeing them.
I've seen lower payouts. I mean, some of them we've had to do on a couple of the, but then we try to control the transaction. We'll get the buyer. So the variable rate commission is a big deal. But when you got sellers who are moving within a year for whatever reason, there just isn't a lot of, especially if they're low equity position, they don't have a lot of money. Yeah, get creative. But I am seeing that. I'm seeing, like, obviously there's more. I'm competing with flat fee brokerages a lot too once in a while. And that's been like, you have to show the value proposition of like, look, that, you know, blank versus my percentage, it's a big difference, but what are you getting for that? And how can I earn you more money? And so that I'm seeing, but you'll see that those people end up going away typically, like in the last downturn, most of those companies failed. Remember that? You're probably around too.
Yeah, and I'm not talking 2.4, 2.5 payouts. I'm talking like 1.5, 1.7, 2.
Choose.
Yeah, the 2.4, 2.5, whatever.
I saw one at 1.4.
1.4.
Yeah, I show one.
I mean, I've seen them at $1. Last year I saw one at $1.
Oh my gosh.
And it was that low budget nerd. He runs around Woodbury a lot.
Yep.
And I can't remember his
Is it
name.
Viola or Voila?
Yeah.
That's who I showed to.
So what he's doing is, that's his value prop. He's charging a fat fee, but then he's letting the sellers pick the commission.
Yep.
And then, and what's interesting that I saw it actually more on the buy. It was weird as a listing agent, in 2020 and 2021. I had agents like waiving their commissions or like dropping it down to that 1 point payout of like, I was like, I would literally call him like, can you just rewrite your offer? Like let's get you paid and just write the best offer. Oh, no, it's all right. Like, okay.
If I have to lower a commission, I try not to lower my payout. Because it's not the buyer's agent's fault that I took that risk.
Yeah, exactly. It's your choice.
I mean, but there's just so many, like you said, the low budgets out there that come in with their iPhone and take photos and throw it online for $3.99 and we'll see what happens.
So yeah, that's definitely a thing in the market. I think that'll shift out. As buyer's agents, I mean, you can negotiate your commission up. You can charge your client the fee. Like you're saying, you're not having your clients do it. So it's kind of brilliant. Like, it is a fine line though, because you still have to represent their best interest.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where but then you get this Viola guy that's $1.
Mhm.
He's taking your 2.7s all day long.
Oh, I know.
So that's where
That's where it's-
that's where I wanted to do a variable commission and say, I'm gonna pay you what your last listing.
I don't think you can legally do that in Minnesota though, but you could put $1 out there, then put it into your, or like do a minimum. But
I saw Dick here said something. Can you
What about
discuss more?
Lead generation.
I don't like getting down the meeting. Sorry, yes. Ben, you're amazing. What are your phone structure, even with that boot on? It doesn't look like it's slowing you down much.
I don't see one.
Oh, great question.
Well, if I'm not at your meeting.
So to hear, you're wondering more about how to generate leads, steps to get listings and convert them into clients. What systems are you utilizing? So a lot of what I do is, I heard it from a wise man that happens to be our OP. I was spreading myself too thin. I was trying to do 9 different ways of lead generating. Door knocking, cold calling, sending out mailers, doing a lot of marketing, focusing on 17 different things. And I sat down with him and said, I'm doing all these things and nothing's returning. And he said, how much of a professional do you feel at doing all of those things? And I said, well, I don't know. And he said, exactly. He said, you probably aren't a professional at one of those things to the level that you need to be. And he asked to challenge me to lower those to the 3 things I want to focus on and just focus on those 3 things for the next 6 months and see where it takes you. So I slimmed down from doing all the things that I didn't really necessarily like doing. And I liked hopping on the phones and cold calling people. So I did that one as my primary focus. Your greatest focus is going to be your sphere. 99% of agents have 70% of their businesses from their sphere. So that's already a given. And then my last one is internet leads. And so, and that's probably my least, least converting ratio is the internet leads, is because they're so low. They're so cold that they're logging into something and being connected with a different person, and they'll either drop off the face of the earth or they want to think about it or whatever it might be, where I've really focused a lot of my time into pre-foreclosures and expireds, because the expired side, they've already risen their hand. And so how do I generate the leads? I focus my personal business, everyone's different, is I wake up and I do cold calls first. And I call for about 1.5 to 2 hours. And then I do a system of every day I need to hit 7 people in my database for my quarterly calls. And so I'll do a quarterly call session after that, and I'll connect with 7 different people. And I do that 4 to 5 days a week. That's my personal, it depends on what do you do. Some people don't really like cold calling. Some people like open houses. Some people like door knocking. It's just finding what 3 things that you really enjoy. I should say 2 things because one of them is your sphere. What 2 things outside of your sphere that you really enjoy doing that you could get business off of, and just focus on that for the next 6 months and getting better and attending classes and trying to better your knowledge on that specific lead generation tool. You'll be surprised on how much better you get at the conversations you have and the objections you handle, where sometimes if you spread yourself too thin, you'll hear an objection that you weren't expecting, you won't know how to handle it. And they'll come more often than not if, and you won't know how to handle them more often than not if you don't become a professional at that specific lead generation tool. So that's what I pretty much do. I don't know who else in the room. What do you guys do? Jamie, what would you do? You have a listing.
Mine is, a lot of mine is my sphere, just reaching out to my past clients and talking with them is kind of what I do. I've done the cold calling. I'm not a fan of it, but I've gotten more comfortable with it. So on.
To hear, how big is your database? Do you have a database yet?
Yes. Yeah, I have around 100 people. Yeah, roughly.
Okay. You could do a lot with 100 people.
Yeah, I don't know if they're all ready, but yeah, that's right.
What are you?
Just his comment right there that they're not all ready. So you gotta grasp the concept of your SOI. You're not trying to sell to them.
Mhm.
You're trying to sell to their friends.
Yeah.
Like they're your fingerlings to wrap onto the other, like referrals and you know what I mean?
Did you hear that?
Oh yeah. Oh, that's really, yeah, I hear that.
Perfect. That's a good point.
Yeah, that was a really good point. Thank you.
So using your sphere to almost create a web.
But you can't just call them like, every day.
Yeah.
I usually like call them like, I mean, not all of them. I try to call them like 20 of them this week and next week. And then before you know, you're out of it, right?
To hear, do you have a 36 touch program?
Yeah.
What does it all entail? If I may, you don't have to share if you don't want to, but
Mm. Yeah.
could I share what my 36 touch program looks like with you? I think you're muted. I'll share it anyways.
I'll answer.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
My 36 touch plan is I'm doing quarterly calls to my database. So between January and March, I'm touching everybody in my database once. And then April to June is another time. July to September is another time, and October to November or December is another time. Voice to voice, leaving a voicemail, sending a text message, actually getting them on the phone is the #1 way. But and then it's mailers, whether it's emails or postcards or like a physical monthly newsletter, doing that. And then we based a lot of our stuff around events. And so we're doing an event here at the end of March. And so we actually have a reason to call our database. I know some people have a struggle actually calling their database because they don't know what to talk to them about. And so that's what we found is very easy to do is, hey, I'm going to call you and I'm not going to talk to you necessarily all about real estate. But I'm going to see how you're doing, and I'm going to drop the fact of my real estate team's holding this event. Reassures them, oh yeah, he's in real estate. Hopefully a conversation about real estate sparks up, but it's not necessarily the reason I'm giving them a call. And then really focusing on creating a touch plan that works best for you. So I'll have texts that are sent out, emails that are sent out, that are revolving around that plan. So I think our plan is you have your quarterly calls and your monthly newsletters. So right there, that's 16 touches. And then we are going to either email, text, or call about the event within that quarter. And you can spread it out however you want to. I think we do a post on Facebook. In January, we had a post on Facebook and an email being sent out in February, and then it's just spamming them for the next 4 weeks in March, letting them know about the event. And not necessarily spamming them unnecessarily, but just enough so that they remember, hey, they're gonna call in. And then we're counting the day that they call in as a touch, because they should be calling in. Our goal is to get at least 50 people to call in. And then also the follow-up. So sending out a thank you for all that attended. This is who ended up winning, and that's going to be sent out via social media, email, and then we're debating on whether or not to send it out as a text, but for sure those two. And then you just repeat it every quarter. Anyone have questions on that?
One of the things for the lead gen that I was, when he first asked that question, is he a newer age, like, so for newer agents, I think it's imperative to do open houses.
Mhm.
Because you're gonna learn how to talk to people face to face. You're gonna get hard questions or questions you may not know the answers to. You're gonna figure out how to work around that. And that is also gonna build confidence. And that's gonna carry with you outside of your open house to talking to your severe. Because if you, I mean, you can tell when you talk to somebody if they're confident. I mean, you go to a car dealership, you want to buy a car, you're going to talk to a guy and he's not confident, you're not going to want to buy a car from him. And that really, I think it instills like the foundation basically on how to talk to people and building confidence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, and if you work in that coinciding with what you're talking about, it's going to all come together. But the biggest thing is confidence.
The more people you have in your sphere of influence, typically a lot of people do a lot more business. And it's because of the people, not necessarily the people that you know, but the people that you know who they might know. That's why a lot of the agents have 70% of their business come from their database. So if you're staying connected with your database and not necessarily connecting with them in a way of trying to get business out of them, like if that's your designated focus, a lot of times it doesn't necessarily work. I think you said you had like 5 of your closest people that refer the most business, and you stay connected with them quite a bit, don't you?
Yeah, I just randomly, I'll be driving down the road and someone will pop my hand and I'll just call them.
Yeah.
And I don't talk any reviews at all. They always bring it up, how's business? And then that's the next thing, how business is.
So imagine if that had a system.
Yeah, I have zero system.
So do you mind sharing how many, units you started out doing to compare to where you are now? Not necessarily a specific number. How many
When I
times?
first started, so
Mhm.
I think my first year I limited on 8 or 10. I think I did just under 40 last year,
There you go.
somewhere in there. I don't know, I'd have to look.
And he doesn't have a system in place. He thinks he doesn't. He does. He just doesn't.
Well,
know
the
it yet.
system's in my head going down the road.
Yeah. So everything has a system to it. It's just finding what works best for you. He doesn't claim to have a system, even though he does. It's just, that's what works for him. I have a system. My team has a system. Jamie, I'm sure you have a system in some way, shape, or form. It's just critiquing it to make it better. Because
It's always evolving. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing. You just always making it better,
So, but yeah, doing open houses, you're gonna get not only better conversations out of that in order to touch with your database, but you're also gonna get better at the market. Especially if you don't have anything. When I first started, I didn't have anything. I started doing open houses and it forced me to look at market statistics and being prepared in order to quote unquote show a house that necessarily wasn't my listing. That'd be my honest recommendations. Any other questions? Discussion questions? Lolu, anything from you? perfect. Done 15 minutes early. Oh. Best way to obtain phone numbers. Remind, I don't know if you've been on Remind. That would be my number one recommendation, and then I'd cross-reference with True People Search. It's truepeoplesearch.com. And so those are gonna give you, Remind's gonna give you the addresses, the names, the numbers. And if they don't have the numbers, you can cross-reference the address in True People Search. It's probably the best way. That, or you can get a paid resource like RedX, Vulcan 7, Land Voice. But that's can get kind of spendy. So
I use white pages.
white
and
pages,
It costs money and then I cross-reference it with Mr. Numbers.
So
So
that
they're
costs
both
money?
in the same number. No, well, I think I pay $1.
Okay.
But if it's both the same number, it's probably the right number.
yeah. So Corey uses Mr. Thumbs, what is it?
Mr. Numbers.
Mr. Numbers and white pages.
The problem I have is finding good email addresses. Like my database, I don't even know how many people are in it, but 50% have email addresses probably.
Cross-reference, so in Remind too, sometimes they don't
Yeah,
know.
see, I don't know. You always talk about Remind and I don't even know how to sign on to it.
Yeah.
So,
There's a class out there that's been recorded. and-
oh, is
Yeah.
that- well, Remind is in North Star, yeah.
And then
Okay.
you go in there and then you
Yeah.
can go down, look, and it will tell you do not call also.
Yeah.
phone numbers.
I always like to use, again, with the events, with my database, we're gonna be sending out some more information to, about this event. It says it doesn't, I don't have your email on file, what's the best email to reach at? And 90% of the time they'll say, oh yeah, it's abc123@gmail.com.
Yeah, I did a giveaway, like, thing that they had to put their email in, and I got a lot.
Yeah.
But I still am missing a lot.
My struggle is having their email, not their phone number. Cause I feel sometimes internet leads specifically, I'll get their email, but not always their right phone number. And if I can't cross-reference their phone number, I got nothing to go off of, so. But I'll have the correct email address, cause they've either had some interaction with it. So,
Well, at least they can still see your information coming across, so then maybe when they're ready,
yeah,
they'll be like, oh, I've seen this name, you know, he's persistent and,
it's the goal. That's
yeah,
the
I mean,
goal.
that's the thing, so it still has a I mean,
There is you can do a reverse email lookup.
Really?
Yes, you just go out and put in reverse email and go down and select one of them.
I've
Put
done
the
that.
email address in and you will, because I've got a Facebook page ad running right now.
Yeah.
And they're giving me their email address, but they're giving me the wrong phone number.
Jerks.
Mhm.
So,
So I mean,
You're smarter than them.
I used to do collections.
Okay. So you teach a class on this.
I'd have to look into that. That's good.
Yeah. So.
Wonderful. Any other questions? Any other comments? Questions about the market listings specifically? No? Perfect.
I have one again. Sorry, Ben.
No,
What
that's
do you say, or let me ask the panel, when they want you to cut your commission? And that's been one that I've been having lately. And I'm sure it's frustrating for everyone, but I just want to kind of hear what are the ideas people have.
See, I'm not alone. Come on, Corey, laugh. Lolo, did you attend Bold this last session?
No, I didn't. Unfortunately, I couldn't.
So I took one thing away from Bold that has helped significantly avoid the price or commission cut of any sort. What you do, should be careful on how I say this. What he told us to do was write down 6, 7, or 8% on the commission payout on your listing side and tell them to circle one. That's pretty much it. So typically
That's good.
they'll ask and be like, okay, well, what's the difference? And you tend not to want to go over this until the actual paperwork side of things. And you just, okay, well, if you don't circle one, this is what changes. And you'll cross off the 2.7 that you should have pre-filled in that you're going to give out to the buyer broker. And then do the typical, I think in Minnesota, it's 55-45 on the listing buyer side. And you'll cross off the 2.7 and go up to 3.15. And then you go over the conversation, you know, it is an unfortunate world that we live in. Voila is not to hate on any agent or anything, but he's been one to advertise lower commissions on the buyer side. Where buyers agents have been incentivized to want to show a home that pays out more first. In Minnesota, it's illegal, or you shouldn't. I don't know if it's technically illegal. Broker might be able to answer that. Ask Alexis.
I think it's ethics and steering. and-
Yeah, of steering and whatnot, but it's the unfortunate world we live in. They're not gonna, it's illegal or unethical not to show a property that a buyer wants to see. So you're gonna have to show every property, but it doesn't necessarily say in what order. And so if you're quote unquote paying out more, some buyers agents in this world will want to show your house first. And be an advocate on wanting to have their buyer purchase your house. None of the agents in this office should be doing that, but there are agents out there that will. And so it's just a way to incentivize buyers agents in order to want to show your home first. And if they really want that, they'll circle 7 or 8%. And if they don't, they'll circle 6 and be like, no, I think 2.7 is perfect. Okay, fantastic. And you move on. So I've been doing that on my last 10 listing appointments. And I haven't had a question on whether or not to go 5 or 4%. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you. So for the 6, 7, 8%, sorry, I have family around, so
Oh, that's okay.
in case you hear background noise, and they're doing our basement, so it's a lot going on right now. The 7%, what's the breakdown for the 7% and the 8%? Because I know the 6, it's 3.3 and 2.7, but what breakdown do you use for 7 and 8?
So I always go off of kind of the standard, and 45% of whatever percentage is being made should go out to the buyer's agent. So off of 7%, I think it's 3.15, and off of 8%, I think it's 3.7, 3.6. Okay.
The other thing to piggyback off yours, and I'll shut up if you want me to. When people ask me to lower my commission, I always talk about trust. Ultimately, at the end of the day, if you go with someone lower and you don't trust them, it's going to be a horrible process. And I talk about whether it's me, whether it's who you hire, whoever you trust. And that is going to make your day better, your transaction better, everything's going to be better if you trust the individual that you just happen to be 6% or whatever, you know. I mean, I work the conversation, but when you talk about trust, I feel like you also gain trust in that process, telling them they need to trust that person, a person.
Yeah. You should find out if you're fighting anybody first. That's what I always like to do. I always like to ask, you know, just flat out, how many agents am I going up against, or are you interviewing any other agents? And that's, you know, the way you ask that question is just based off of how you read them. Like if they're a high D, they just want to be asked right away. Okay, am I facing anybody else, or are you interviewing any other agents? If they say yes, then you can kind of, you know, go off of what Corey said and bring up the trust side of things. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Perfect. Wonderful. If no one has any other questions, it was thank you all for attending. It's fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, guys.